SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Come see your locally owned and operated Linton Glass for all your glass needs. No matter what glass you need to replace, you can count on Linton Glass. Call us today at 601-835-4336 or find us on the web at lintonglass.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Yes, sir. Good morning and welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thank you for joining us as we start a Thursday that looks like it's going to be a pretty spectacular day across the state of Mississippi. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. We invite you to join us on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Every sports fan can tell you fast speeds win games. It's why C Spire brings your fiber home internet, nationwide 5G wireless, and IT solutions that move as fast as your business. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. Good morning, Lance.
Morning.
What's up, brother?
Oh, man. Now, be careful out there today, guys. There's a little dense fog all over the place, patchy. But, yeah, other than that, beautiful morning. You saw the stars out. Everything's damp. Not quite as humid as yesterday, though, thank goodness.
Yeah, a little soupy.
Yeah. Y'all still getting the wet stuff up there?
Yeah, we're pretty good.
Pretty done.
Yesterday, it mostly held off through the day, kind of sprinkled a couple of times. We had flag football last night at 5:45, and
big
from
guy
about
make some plays?
5:45 until 6:15 it rained.
Yeah, did the big guy make some plays, or
He actually did. He had a pretty good game last night.
That's all I love.
He did. Had an
flag
interception.
Football. Yes.
His team actually kind of rolled last night. So they've had some close losses. Last night was
What age bracket is this?
12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's 12, 13.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I know that there are some big boys that are out there at this point. To the point that, like, lots of different parents are like, man, what age group is that?
Yeah.
Some big kids out there. You forget that it's in that, 6th, 7th, 8th grade range.
Oh, man, there's such a difference, too.
We're on the
Goodness.
boys.
Yeah.
Oh, man, those growth spurts start. And the difference between, like, an end-of-the-year 7th grader and a beginning-of-the-year 6th grader, it's like, are they even the same species?
Yeah, my nephew was the same way. He like overnight, he went from 5 foot nothing to pushing 6 foot. And
Yep.
the voice says, "Hey, Uncle Lance, how you doing now?" Hey, who is that? Oh yeah, that's my nephew. Yeah.
Yep. The voice, all of the things.
Yeah, I'm driving
changing a
now.
little bit.
I'm driving now. So, okay.
Jonestown, areas of fog this morning. Partly cloudy in the afternoon. A stray shower or thunderstorm possible. High of 82. Winds out of the west, southwest, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Brookhaven, you've got mostly sunny skies today with a stray shower or thunderstorm possible. High of 85. Brandon, you're checking in at 85 today as well with sunshines and clouds. Mixed, a stray shower or thunderstorm possible. 5 to 10 mile an hour breeze out of the south. Poplarville, sunshine and clouds mixed. Stray shower, thunderstorm possible. 84 degrees. Winds light and variable, which just means it's going to be breezy.
Well, I like that you went with Jonestown. I mean, that's a fairly obscure Mississippi town. You pulled that one out of the hat.
Yeah.
I have a buddy that grew up with some land down there, so I actually know where it is, but I don't know how many people do.
There is beautiful farmland in Jonestown. There is also less beautiful stuff in Jonestown, but they're trying. There have been a few efforts to clean up a little bit along the way. historically significant place. They're just to the west, just to the east of Clarksdale. Mm-hmm. Just to the east of Clarksdale. And I guess just a touch north. Tim in Tupelo says, thick fog in Tupelo this morning. Ed told us it was foggy in the GTR this morning as well. Ed, we'll get to your other message in just a second. Harry Truman was born on this day in 1884, serving as the 34th president, 34th vice president in 1945. He assumed the presidency on the death of FDR. Implemented the Marshall Plan in the aftermath of World War II to rebuild the economy of Western Europe, established both the Truman Doctrine and NATO to contain the expansion of Soviet communism. He was a member of the Democrat Party, proposed numerous New Deal coalition liberal domestic reforms, few of which were enacted because of the conservative coalition that dominated Congress at the time. Only then, after he was named president, following FDR's death, was he told about the ongoing Manhattan Project and the atomic bomb. It was top secret, top secret. Truman authorized the first and only use of a nuclear weapon in war against the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Truman's administration engaged in an internationalist foreign policy by working closely with Britain. He staunchly denounced isolationism. One more interesting note about Harry Truman. 1948, which is about a dozen years ahead of when it actually happened, he proposed that Congress should pass comprehensive civil rights legislation. They refused, so he issued a couple of executive orders which prohibited discrimination in agencies of the federal government and desegregated the United States Armed Forces. Born on this day, 1911, American blues singer, songwriter, and guitarist Robert Johnson. Born in Hazelhurst, Mississippi. Lived only 27 years. Details of his death a mystery. His singing, guitar playing, and songwriting on his landmark 1936 and 37 recordings have influenced later generations of musicians. His recording career spanned a grand total of 7 months. Couple of reasons. He was a wanderer. Seemed to prefer the street corners and the juke joints in terms of playing and performing than he did getting into a recording studio. 2 recording sessions. It was crazy. After his death, he had people as late as 1941 coming from other parts of the country for the opportunity to try and record Robert Johnson, only to arrive in Mississippi or other parts of the South and find out that he was no longer with us. Died on April 16th, 1938 near Greenwood. They say unknown cause of death. There has been speculation.
The haint got him.
That he was a man about town.
When them haints got him.
Yeah. So, Robert Johnson. And, of course, he is one of the names that is central to the legend of the Crossroads.
Great movie, too.
Yeah.
Ralph Macchio was 70. Ralph Macchio was 72, but played a part of a 21-year-old. Only he can do that.
Selling his soul to the devil for the ability to play the blues. Enrique Iglesias, decidedly not Robert Johnson, was born on this day in 1975, 50 years ago. King of Latin pop. Bailamos. Anyway, he was born in Madrid. So, president, musician.
And you got to have a comedian in there. Don Rickles would have been 99.
Hey, how about that?
Boy. Man, he could get away with anything. He was something else.
Yeah, he could.
Sonny Liston, too, 93.
Today in 1541, the Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto and his expedition are the first Europeans to discover the Mississippi River. Glad they found it. Pretty big deal for our state.
Yeah, you think that. I mean, if you just head west from anywhere,
You think somebody would have eventually discovered it had it not been?
Hey, he was first. You got to give him credit for that. But yeah,
That's
a
right.
pretty big river there.
Go west, young man.
Go west.
Till you get to the big ditch. Today is VE Day. 80 years ago today, May 8th, 1945, German General Wilhelm Keitel formally surrenders to the Allies, represented by the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and the Soviet Union in Berlin. Very significant day. Events today marking VE Day itself will kick off with a service in Westminster Abbey. 1,800 people invited to attend, including the King and the Queen, veterans, politicians, and charities, perhaps. May 8th, officially Victory Day for World War II, will soon become a day that we celebrate in the United States as well. Donald Trump making it a federal holiday, just still got to go to work. Kyle says, don't know if he sold his soul, but the boy could play the blues. Robert Johnson. Just getting started with you on this Thursday morning, weekend just around the corner. This is Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Glass.
Know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Lonely feeling deep inside. Find a chord.
Off and rolling on this Thursday morning as you get up and get to moving around just a bit. Enjoy that first or maybe second cup of coffee. We say good morning. We also say thank you for spending part of your day with us. A couple of other things happened on this day, in addition to it being VE Day. Little Caesar's Pizza was founded on this day in 1959 by Mike Ilitch and his wife Marion in Garden City, Michigan. Pizza.
They used to have the best sandwich back before they went through bankruptcy and reopened. Man, that thing was great. My sister and I would go by there after school about every day, and we would, grab one of them. It was like a little pocket. It was kind of like a
Hot Pocket?
Well, no, it was kind of like a pita sandwich, but it was their bread, and they jammed onions and lettuce and some oil in there with some ham and stuff. Oh, man, it was amazing.
There you go.
Yeah, we'd eat one about every day. That was like our little treat. We'd get home, but I loved it. I wish they'd bring that back.
This day in 1963 was the beginning of an era. Who could have known just how big an era it would be? It was the premiere of Dr. No, the first James Bond film starring the great Sean Connery. Premiered in the United States on this day in 1963.
Are you a Bond fan?
Absolutely. Now, I'm not a Bond junkie, but absolutely a Bond fan.
I'd consider myself a Bond junkie. I like the earliest stuff the best, but some of the new stuff is just it's too much action.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the old thing, the outfits and the cars and just everything's very cool. But
Is it Casino Royale? It's got the scene where you have like the full-on fight in the shower.
I'm not sure.
Changes tuxedos and the whole.
Yeah, the last three, I get kind of confused. Skyfall and all those.
Yeah.
They're all good. Don't get me wrong. I'm curious how to progress without Daniel Craig, though, who they'll go with. I know there's been a lot of speculation. Have they announced that yet, or is?
I don't know.
I haven't seen that yet. So
Craig's been a pretty good one, though.
yeah, he's been solid.
Yeah. Boy, what an interesting 1-2 punch here. On this day, today, in 2008, Dmitry Medvedev appointed Vladimir Putin as the Russian prime minister.
We were just talking about that, yesterday?
Just yesterday. 4 years later, this day in 2012, Dmitry Medvedev is confirmed as Russian prime minister after being nominated by Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, it's a little self-dealing there.
You think Medvedev was really interested in stepping down as president of Russia?
I don't know.
Or you think he was told, hey, we're going to put you in this PM slot, but I'm going to slide back up to the big chair, all right? But no, that wasn't a question. Okay.
Yeah, I think he was appointed basically so that he could keep the seat warm, and they were able to make him an offer he couldn't refuse, as the Godfather would say, and potentially,
Did he
after
get to be an oligarch? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm going with. And if you said no, then there's probably a place in Siberia where they could use some work. Probably send him.
This day in 2013, Sir Alex Ferguson announced his retirement as the manager of Manchester United. What a run he had. 1986 through 2013, 1,500 matches with Man U, 895 wins, 338 draws, 267 losses. His win percentage was 60. And he was knighted. Won more trophies than any other manager in European soccer history. Sir Alex Ferguson announcing his retirement 12 years ago today. Marshall and Terry on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, says, don't forget the Bond ladies.
Yeah, who was the only one that starred in two of them? A little piece of trivia for you there.
No clue.
Maude Adams.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I got a message from a buddy as well. Don't forget the Bond music.
Oh, it's the best. I mean, there was a score created just for that movie, each one of them. And then the opening scene where they had the little bullet thing, and then you kind of zoomed in. Yeah, good stuff. The worst one of them all to me is, which is not a bad one, is the Timothy Dalton one with Benicio del Toro is in it. And it's just kind of all over the place, but it's still a pretty good Bond. But
I mean, like, how about you go out and get Adele to sing Skyfall?
Right. I mean, and
stuff.
And think about,
I know that's one of the later ones. I understand.
But Lazenby, he did the one in Her Majesty's Secret Service and said, all right, that's good enough. Who in the world would turn down Bond?
Gives it up after one?
George Lazenby, that's who. And he was awesome in the role, too. I mean, really kind of rough-hewn, different, and then said, nah, I'm good. One's enough. Are you crazy, man? Come on.
It wouldn't take any convincing, I know, to get you to sign on for this, other than you might go a little stir-crazy. It's just a matter of having the time to do it. Would you sit down and watch all of the Bond movies consecutively?
Oh, yeah. I've done.
Like do a Bond movie marathon?
When I can find them all at one time, yeah, I'll turn them on and watch, 7 or 8 of them over a couple days and then just keep rolling with whatever ones are available. I haven't found anybody yet that's got the whole library, online at the same time. So it's kind of hard to do
cool.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I've caught 10 or 15 of them in a week, just watched and watched and watched.
Did you catch this news yesterday out of Jackson? The IHL Board of Trustees announced that Dr. Marcus Thompson, who was on this program not too terribly long ago, has submitted his resignation as president of Jackson State less than a year and a half after the former IHL administrator was hired to take the lead at the state's largest HBCU. The Board of Trustees has named Dr. Denise Jones Gregory provost and vice president of academic affairs as interim president. Reporters were gathered at the IHL building, as they are on meeting days, yesterday, early in the day, but the board then moved into executive session, forced media members to leave the meeting space. Before that happened, they were told that the board was moving into executive session to, quote, discuss a personnel matter regarding the job performance of a person holding a specific position at JSU and related to potential litigation, close quote.
Wow.
That feels remarkably specific without naming a name.
Yeah, very vague yet specific.
The person in question was indeed Thompson. Statement came from IHL later in the day after the executive session ended. He was hired as Jackson State's president in November of 23. Had been the deputy commissioner and chief administrative officer of the IHL. No further details provided on potential litigation referenced by the spokesperson for the IHL. were disclosed in the statement. We shall see. As for Dr. Denise Jones-Gregory, she's a graduate of Jackson State, spent 20 years in the higher education world before returning to her alma mater as provost and vice president of academic affairs. She served as associate provost of student access and diversity at Samford University. Good news from Keesler. After officials announced a lockdown yesterday, initial unconfirmed reports indicated that a possible active shooter situation was underway at the Biloxi military base. However, sources on the coast said that the gates at the facility were closed off while law enforcement and military personnel conducted an investigation. No injuries reported. No evidence of an active shooter was found. Keesler officials said in a statement, after extensive security operations, no indications of an active shooter or active threat to Keesler Air Force Base have been discovered. Crews are finalizing their searches as a precautionary measure at this time. The installation is secure and no injuries have occurred. There was some confusion because Keesler was set to conduct a base-wide readiness exercise yesterday. Keesler Air Force Base officials confirmed that the two incidents were not connected. Cindy Hyde-Smith is spearheading an effort in Washington to establish federal criminal penalties for assaulting a hospital employee. The Save Healthcare Workers Act was introduced by Cindy Hyde-Smith and Senator Angus King, an independent from Maine, this week, with the goal of deterring and preventing violence against healthcare workers by authorizing federal tools to prosecute those who incite violence against hospital workers. Studies cited by the lawmakers found that in 2021, 77% of emergency department staff were exposed to violence. It's an astonishingly large number. More recent study conducted by the National Nurses United Group found that in 2023, 82% of nurses have experienced at least one type of workplace violence as an incident. Nearly half have seen a rise in rates of violence inside healthcare settings. There's a companion bill in the House. We'll see where this legislation goes. We got sports headlines coming up next. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Get the inside track on Mississippi politics. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Don't worry, baby.
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no...
Day 2 of the conclave. CC in Senatobia, C-Spire text line. Is the smoke really necessary? Can't one of those dudes just stick his head out the window and say, "No Pope yet"? Or if they elect one, do like Ghostbusters, "We got one."
It'd be funny if they're all like sitting in a room just smoking cigars, and then that's the smoke that comes out. They're like celebrating. We finally got it done.
When black smoke comes out the chimney, there is no news. Got a great story for you about what the Cardinals eat during conclave. They don't appear to be too happy about it. By the way, a really big announcement scheduled to be coming from the White House, 9 o'clock our time this morning. President Trump is expected to announce a framework of a trade deal with the United Kingdom. The first in what the White House hopes is a series of trade agreements since it imposed tariffs against allies and adversaries, according to people familiar with the negotiations. By the way, if that happens, will President Trump get credit for that? Like if there are a series of announcements with the United Kingdom, India, Japan, others, and ultimately some agreement with China,
Yeah, I mean, he would have
And
to.
it puts the United States in a better position overall in terms of like balancing the playing field, not having a tilted play board.
Well, he said a good bit about NAFTA the other day, so you know where he's coming from as far as Donald Trump. And he's wanting fairness. That's it. As he said, NAFTA was the worst deal in the history of mankind for America, but great for a lot of others. And all he's trying to do is balance it out, and I don't blame him.
But I'm saying, is he going to get credit?
Of course.
Like, is our... No, you say of course, but I would argue that maybe not.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to worry too much about what people whose brains rattling around in their head can't see, but I will look at it and say, yeah, credit's due and credit's going to be granted.
No question, you and I will. You going to read about it in the New York Times?
I don't know.
Wall Street Journal?
Well, hold on.
AP?
We'll write about it. I promise you that. If you want the truth, come here.
Mississippi State is building a new state-of-the-art practice facility, soon going to be constructed on campus after what the university calls a historic donation was announced by the athletics department yesterday. Howard Industries, a Laurel-based manufacturer of electrical and technology products, is providing the lead naming gift for the indoor facility. Pending approval by the IHL at its June 2025 meeting, the new facility will be named in honor of Billy W. Howard Sr. He graduated from Mississippi State with a degree in electrical engineering in 1946, lettering in football, baseball, and track. Zach Selman, the AD at Mississippi State, shared his gratitude for Howard's investment into the new practice facility that will include 110,000 square feet of indoor training space, along with dedicated spaces for sports science for enhanced work and injury prevention and recovery. The donation includes renovations and expansions of the sports medicine, nutrition, and locker room areas within the Leo Seal Junior Football Complex. Practice facility will be constructed adjacent to the Seal Center. The estimated cost for the practice facility and the enhanced spaces around it, about $60 million. Groundbreaking expected to happen in 2027, with completion targeted for the summer of 2028, and then interior renovations to the current facility completed in 2029. Big deal there. Big deal. Mississippi State has been and will continue, I suppose, until this project is done. I've been sharing the Palmero Center with baseball and other programs. So it'll be great to get their own digs.
I loved going to Mississippi State baseball camp back in the day. If it ever started raining, you would go into the Palmero Center and you would play rag ball, competitive games. It was awesome. Had a blast.
I bet they were.
Oh, man, they were so much fun.
Sports Hall of Fame has announced 5 finalists for the 2025 Ferris Trophy for the state's top college baseball player. Drake Fontenot from Delta State, Ace Reese from Mississippi State, Luke Hill from Ole Miss, J.B. Middleton from Southern Miss, Nick Monaster from Southern Miss. Middleton has skyrocketed up MLB draft boards. He has been spectacular. The Yazoo City product currently holds the third lowest ERA in all of Division I baseball, 1.86.
That is amazing.
He's got 8 wins. That's 11th nationally. 88 strikeouts. That's top 20. He's giving up 5.35 hits per 9 innings. That's 6th nationally. Pretty sporty. Nick Monaster's been on a tear. 16 home runs, 57 runs batted in, second in the Sun Belt in home runs, topping the league in the RBI category. But pretty good second base also. Ace Reese at Mississippi State, the Houston transfer, has made quite the impact in his first year in maroon and white, leading the Bulldogs in hits, doubles, home runs, and RBI, 8th in the SEC for total hits, 63 of them on the year. For Ole Miss, it's Luke Hill. The Arizona State transfer has paced the Rebels with 62 hits, hitting .344 on the year with 8 home runs, 31 driven in, and a team-high 39 walks. And finally, Drake Fontenot, Gulf South Conference regular season champion Delta State, two-way player a year ago. He's just been the ace on the staff this year, 9-2. ERA just above 2, 84 strikeouts on the year. Gulf South Conference Pitcher of the Year, first team All Gulf South Conference. Those are your finalists for the Ferris Trophy. Postseason action rolls on. Mississippi State women's golf will advance to the NCAA championship for the fourth straight season after concluding the NCAA Gold Canyon Regional in fourth place at 11 over par. Shot 2 over in the final round. 4 golfers inside the top 20 for only the third time all season. Making their 6th appearance all-time in the NCAA championship. Head coach Charlie Ewing has taken his Lady Bulldogs to the NCAA championship in 4 or 5 seasons. Only year they didn't make it, might have made it if not for terrible weather in Baton Rouge. They just canceled it and sent the top 6 seeds on. Avery Weed led the way for Mississippi State, finished 2 over for the tournament. Ole Miss, too. For the 3rd consecutive year and the 6th time in program history, the number 16 Ole Miss women's golf team headed to the championship. Finished runner-up in the Charlottesville Regional, 54-hole score of 9 over par. 4 players finished inside the top 25, led by freshman Kajalata Svarvar. She was 3rd individually. My apologies if I did not pronounce that correctly. 30 teams headed to Costa Mesa, California. Is that right? Costa Mesa?
I don't trust you on that.
Carlsbad, California, for the Omni La Costa Resort. There you go. Ole Miss won the national championship in 2021. But wait, there's more. The Ole Miss softball team won for the 2nd consecutive day, took extra innings yesterday behind a go-ahead 3-run home run in the 8th inning by Mackenzie Pickens. Number 18 Ole Miss softball kept their tournament run going, knocking off number 4 Florida 6-3 in 8 innings. Playing it in Athens, Pickens and fellow freshman Percy Lamas each launched 3-run home runs to propel the Rebels into the quarterfinal round. Ole Miss returns to action today, facing number 3 Texas in the quarterfinals. First meeting between the two teams since Texas has joined the SEC. 4 o'clock this afternoon, SEC Network. Mississippi State now playing a waiting game. Softball team for the Bulldogs dropped one yesterday to the 10th-ranked LSU Tigers, scored 4 runs in the second. LSU did to take control of the game. State lost 5-0 in the second round of the SEC tournament. It was their opening game. Mississippi State will wait on its NCAA tournament destination selection show coming up on Sunday at 6 o'clock on ESPN2. Those are your sports headlines, except for one more. We talked earlier in the week, Lance, about neither you nor I is like really digging on the NBA.
Yeah.
But it's kind of getting interesting. You're down to the semifinals in both the East and the West. Last night, in Boston, Celtics led by 20. And they lost to the Knicks 91-90. Big-time comeback, suffocating defense, overtime, huge shots down the stretch. Knicks headed back to the Garden, Madison Square Garden, that is, up 2-0 on the Celtics. A little surprising to see Denver beat OKC in Game 1 of that series. Thunder took out some frustration on the Nuggets last night.
Yeah.
149-106. Yikes.
That's a beat down there.
A beat down. We'll have a lottery update when we come back. Mississippi Lottery coming up next on Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Glass.
Keeping Mississippi in the know, one morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Time for your Mississippi Lottery update, mslottery.com. Guess what? Lotto America, stop me if you've heard this before. No jackpot winner last night, which means on Saturday the estimated jackpot is up to $33,140,000. Estimated cash value of almost $15.25 million. Numbers from Wednesday, 3, 6, 9, 13, 17. Now, doggone it, those are good numbers. Those are easy numbers. Somebody should have picked those numbers, 3, 6, 9, 13, 17, with the star ball of 8. I mean, when the combination's like 27, 36, 42, 1, 17.
When you get up in those big numbers, too.
I mean, I get that not being a hit, but come on, people. We got to do better. Got to do better on this with Lotto America. Big money going in somebody's pocket. Might as well be yours. Might as well be. No jackpot winner on Powerball goes up to $82 million Saturday, $37.7 million the cash value. See, nobody's going to pick these numbers. 14, 15, 30, 40, 59.
Yeah.
Nobody's picking that.
Yeah, who's picking 59? I mean,
with a Powerball of 20? I mean, that's understandably not a winner.
I can barely count that high, man. Come on.
But the Lotto America numbers, those were pickable. They were very, very pickable. I'm just saying. All right, what you got on Double Play?
Well, the Wednesday, May 7th numbers, 9, 31, 32, 50, and 57 with a Powerball of 14. And with Mega Millions, there's no jackpot winner yet. $100 million for the Friday, May 9th drawing, estimated cash value.
And again, Lance, you understand why. When I look at the numbers, I understand why there was no Mega Millions winner.
Yeah, even just like Mega Ball is 16. I mean, that's not nobody's favorite number, and that's my birthday date. I'll never use 16 for anything.
No jackpot winner with Mississippi Match 5. Estimated jackpot for tonight, $308,000. Wednesday night's drawing 1, 4, 12, 22, 32.
Well, Cash 3, Wednesday, $500 midday number, 654. Evening, 176. Cash 4, $5,000 midday number, 6082. Evening, 6498. Fireball of 4 and a cash pop of 3 in the midday. Evening, fireball of 3 with a cash pop of 5.
If you're not paying attention to the fiscal year, back in November or December when you got the report from the lottery on how much money they had transferred to the state, you might have been a little concerned because you're like, hold on now, the year's almost over. No. The fiscal year runs July 1 through June 30, which means the lottery's April transfer to the state totaling more than $8.8 million takes the fiscal year 25 transfer to more than $94 million. First $80 million each year supports road and bridge improvements, but since the lottery crossed that milestone in March, every dollar transferred now is benefiting education exclusively. That means more than $14 million and counting has gone toward education in Mississippi. The Education Enhancement Fund helps early learning collaboratives, teacher supply grants, classroom technology upgrades, and more. The lottery not only provides entertainment, it also helps support these incredible programs that benefit Mississippians statewide. Now, I'm not in the legislature. You're not in the legislature. But if I were, hold on a second. As part of the new tax deal, we've got a dedicated revenue stream that is now going to MDOT for projects, but it's specifically for projects. So could we reallocate all of this money to education? I have raised that point, and I have had elected officials tell me education's getting enough money right now. You know, it's almost like when things are going really well, really, really well, instead of going, sweet, we fixed it. No, that's almost like the time you double down on your investment. Just thinking out loud. Probably not supposed to do that during the lottery segment. They don't control where the money goes, but it's a fantastic thing. May games now available at retailers. $2 Heat Stroke, $5 Blazing Hot Bucks, $10 Red Hot Cash, prizes up to $200,000. You got a non-winning ticket, no problem. You got a scratch off. Enter any non-winning hot game into the lottery's newest bonus promotion, Sizzlin' Summer Cash, for your shot at prizes from $500 gift cards to $25,000 in cash. 6 bonus drawings start May 21st. Don't miss out. MSLottery.com. Click the bonus promos tab for full details. We got time for a couple of winners, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
What you got?
McGee woman won $2,500 from County Line Jasco Shell in Ridgeland. And then a Columbia woman hit it big with the $5,000 winning from the TG Mart #1 in Columbia. And those were your Cash 4 winners. And a couple of others in there. Hattiesburg woman, $2,500 on the Match 5. And then the $20 200-time Cash Blitz winners had a couple of Picayune woman, Gloucester man, West Point man, each won $1,000. And another Gloucester man doubled it with a $2,000 win.
All right. That's your update from the Mississippi Lottery, brought to you by MSLottery.com. Mornings with Richard Cross rolls on with you after this.
Cast a bad spell over me. And when I catch you, you're gonna catch hell. I'ma get you in the first degree. Oh, it's a bad spell. Talking about a bad spell. Boy, you're fast as lightning.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thursday morning, going to be a nice one across the state of Mississippi. Little chance of rain. Got some fog this morning in parts of the state. So if that's the case with you, maybe slow it down just a touch this morning as you get the kids to school, you get yourself to work, or I don't know, maybe you're headed to the golf course or headed to the fishing hole. Whatever it is you got going this morning, we're glad that you're choosing to spend part of your time with us. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough. We know that. You know that. If you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. It's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. By the way, if you're curious what that means, like you've heard me say that, you got MWG Employer Services, and they can help your problems. What does that mean? It means that there's a dashboard, computer screen, that you have access to and your employees have access to, where you can do things like schedule time off, view tax documents, post company manuals and company holidays, have access to your check stub, have access to other important company documents, understand what your benefit structure is. Like all of it's in one place. MWGEmployerServices.com. We probably need to talk about this a little bit more. Somebody says, talk about how both senators from Mississippi voted against DOJ being implemented into law. Obviously talking about Roger Wicker, Cindy Hyde-Smith. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I saw that. I bookmarked it. I intended to go back and try and dig on it a little bit and figure out if there was any rationale or any explanation for the way they voted. And it is still sitting in that bookmarked folder. And so I don't want to go too far down that road. But Lance, help me remember that's something we need to dig on a little bit.
You got it. I was actually doing that this morning as well. So yeah. Once we got those texts. So Thank you guys.
I need to go a little farther than just, during a commercial break. Larry and Maya says that Gerard said it was fake news. We'll see. That's why I said I want to dig on it a little bit more. I don't want to give you like some definitive thought one way or the other. I want to be sure that I'm buttoned up on that before we start talking about that. Somebody says if we had a DOJ investigation, education might have enough money. Possibly. Other end of that spectrum, Brandon in Senatobia, the education system having enough money is the biggest joke I've ever heard. Different perspectives, different opinions, as is regularly the case. We welcome all of yours. 601-879-4395 is the number for the C Spire text line. Perhaps you saw this story last night. There are questions about whether or not this is a sign that Mike Johnson is having trouble getting that big, beautiful bill passed. House Republicans are backing off some of the Medicaid cuts as a report shows that millions of people would lose their health care. We're going to go through the story, but just based on the headline, right? Sometimes there's more than the headline. We're going to go through it in just a second. But what did you think was going to happen, House Republicans? You make massive cuts to Medicaid, you think everybody's just going to move on tra-la, tra-la, tra-la as it was already? So what does that mean? You didn't plan enough, or you weren't ready for the fight? Or you just can't swing the votes? Or is this another thing where we're reminded that elections have consequences, and you know what? Probably would have been good if you picked up a few more seats in November and you didn't have such a small margin with which to work. Or is it another case of Republicans fighting amongst themselves? Perhaps the answer is all of the above. House Republicans appear to be backing off some, but not all, of the steep reductions to the Medicaid program as part of their big tax breaks bill, running into resistance from more centrist GOP lawmakers. Shocking. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just sarcastically saying that it's shocking. Who are opposed to ending nearly free health care coverage for their constituents back home. Not interested in voting based on what they believe is best one way or the other for these United States of America. Voting on what they believe will get them reelected based on their constituents back home. I know there are lots of reasons that people argue against term limits. That is reason number one that you would argue for term limits. You vote on based on what's right because you know you've got a finite amount of time in this position regardless. Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. By the way, you and I should all laugh when we see that any office related to the government is nonpartisan. There's no such thing. No such thing. Supreme Court's not nonpartisan. The Fed's not nonpartisan, and the Congressional Budget Office is not nonpartisan. They call themselves that all they want. No such thing anymore. Used to be. Used to be. Not anymore. So the Congressional Budget Office issued a report estimating that millions of Americans would lose Medicaid coverage under the various proposals being circulated by Republicans as cost-cutting measures. House Republicans are scrounging to come up with as much as $1.5 trillion in cuts across federal government, health, food stamps, and other programs to offset the revenue lost for some $4.5 trillion in tax breaks. Under the options, Medicaid enrollment would decrease and the number of people without health insurance would increase. And so it touched off fresh uncertainty about Mike Johnson's ability to get the votes to pass the big, beautiful bill by a self-made Memorial Day deadline. You know how I keep up with when Memorial Day is? SEC baseball tournament.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works for me. So I know that today is a Thursday. This weekend marks the final regular season baseball play in SEC play. I'm sorry, next to last.
2, yeah.
So this is week 9. Next week's week 10. Then you have the SEC tournament, and the following Monday is Memorial Day. Today's the Thursday. That means he's got 3.5 weeks to get the budget done. Hopefully that's enough time. All right, so here's the other piece of this story. If we got to weave our way to make this local, okay? But I think there's a route. If there are not as many cuts to Medicaid, does that mean that the states individually are going to have to come up with less money because more money is going to continue flowing to the states individually in the form of Medicaid reimbursements and funding programs, and therefore there is less worry than there was throughout the legislative session that ended at the beginning of April, end of March, beginning of April in Mississippi, because we talked over and over and over and over and over about we got to wait and see what the White House and what this Congress is going to do with Medicaid because everybody assumes that cuts are coming. Is it possible that those cuts are not going to be as significant as they were going to be as we read this about Republicans having trouble maybe having all the votes to get the full cuts package passed? Therefore, we should feel even better about the state income tax elimination program that's going into effect? Because Mississippi may not have to come up with as much money as it was going to come up with previously to address shortfalls? Sorry, I'm like, I know that was a lot of dots to connect, but did you follow? One of the big concerns with the budget and the fact that we were going to have to spend a bunch more money going forward was cuts that Washington was going to make in terms of reimbursement for Medicaid. If they're not going to cut as much, that means we may not have as much money that we got to come up with on our own. Back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
Filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Cause we both give a little, ain't no run too long when we meet in the middle. I'd start walking your way, you'd start walking mine. We meet in the middle, eat that old Georgia pie.
Should play this song in Congress at the beginning of every day.
Yeah. Make them handshake or, give a little.
Although that would anger everyone. Everyone. We gave up too much. We gave up too much. Government worked that way for a while. Not forever, but for a while. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. You can hear it now. I knew Cross was a liberal.
I have to play some more Russian music for you.
That's a communist, not a liberal. Well, is there? Oh, I see what you did there. See what you did there.
Say it without saying it.
I want to go back through what we did before the break. I felt like I was squeezing that in at the end. It's a complicated version of connect. Right, so you got connect the dots where you make a smiley face, where you just go kind of linearly in a circle, and it makes sense. And then there's that really complex connect the dots where you end up making a spider web. This is more of a spider web. So the story is, and we were talking about it a little while ago, that House Republicans may be having trouble getting all of the Medicaid cuts into the big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump wants. And so if they roll back a bit, not completely, but a bit, some of the cuts that they were going to make to Medicaid, theoretically that means states will have to come up with less money than they were going to have to come up with if the full cuts were rolled out. Think about it like this, and maybe I'm explaining something that doesn't need explaining. But the example would be, you thought that your tax bill this year was going to be $10,000, and you're going, golly, I mean, I've got some money saved up here on the side, but I really don't want to drain all my reserves to pay this $10,000 tax bill. But I'm going to have to do it because I don't have any other choice. And then you find out that you don't actually owe $10,000, you only owe $3,000. And though you're still coming out of pocket, out of your reserves, you're not coming nearly as deep out of pocket, and you feel a whole lot better about it. So we went, when we were going through the tax elimination bill debate with the House and the Senate throughout the course of the winter into the early spring, one of the things that was consistently talked about was the fact that there are cuts coming, likely to Medicaid, and Mississippi, along with all the other states, was going to be in the hook for the difference in what the federal government was sending to us and what they are sending, like moving forward. And there was a lot of thought that didn't know how much that was going to be, could be as little as a couple of $100 million, could be as much as $400 or $500 million, and was going to continue to go up over time as new people were added to the rolls. But if instead of having to come up with $200, $300, $400, $500 million to make up the difference, maybe Mississippi will only have to come up with 50 or 100 or 150 million, leaving more in our reserves, giving us more confidence in the ability for the ultimate elimination of the state income tax to be financially feasible moving forward. That's all I was saying on that.
Yeah, it's pretty complicated stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, ACA allows states, the Affordable Care Act, to expand Medicaid to adults with incomes up to, 138% of the poverty level? And so that's, you got a lot of jockeying going on with this stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's basically the Kentucky Derby right now, and we'll have to just kind of wait and see. But, yeah, very complicated. And, the ACA added tons of Medicaid-style benefits to health care. So I'm interested to see if there's any unwinding and who will absorb those costs, so on and so forth, because I was actually pretty active in the financial world when the ACA went through, and I was like, oh, my goodness, this is going to be a lot of costs that average consumers are going to absorb. So I know there's a better way. I just hope we can find it, honestly, because this is way too complicated for average folks. And that's, Richard, I mean, Congress, whether in D.C. or here in Mississippi, are normal working people. They didn't get a degree to, be accountants most of the time or go through tax codes. And so this is a very complicated process that needs to be simplified. And the ACA did add a ton of layers to that process that was more simple before it. So I hope we can just get back to some simplicity in healthcare on both the poverty side and those who have Medicare and those that are, entitled to the benefits that they paid into.
We don't do simple very well.
Yeah, this is it's very complicated. So, and we'll see how Congress goes and moves, but the ACA is seemingly a target. Trump really wanted in that first term to remove the ACA mandates. He was able to get rid of the penalty, but I can tell you, he's still got a target on the ACA. That was Obama's baby. And
sure.
So I can imagine.
Well, but Trump also admitted during campaign season that he was not going to eliminate the ACA without a better solution in place.
Exactly. And the Republicans could not agree on that in the first term of Trump. And I have a
and I don't
gut
know
feeling they won't believe it. They won't do it again.
No. And the truth of the matter is, they haven't tried to repeal it because they haven't come up with a better solution.
That's right. Yeah. And again, I think and people hear this until they probably don't want to hear it anymore, but until you open up state lines and allow health insurance companies to insure a larger pool, limiting the risk and bearing the burden over a much larger group of people than 3 million or 2 million here and 5 million there, you're not going to solve this problem.
A late switcheroo from the president. President Trump has said that he is nominating Casey Means, a California doctor and wellness influencer, to be the next Surgeon General. Means has become more prominent with the rise of Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again movement. She and her brother, Callie Means, who is an advisor to Kennedy, wrote a book called Good Energy. It became popular with Trump campaign staffers and later with Kennedy. Trump praised her MAHA credentials. She studied at Stanford, but dropped out of her surgical residency on her 30th birthday, frustrated by what she saw as her field's inability to treat patients' underlying chronic causes of ill health. She's done interviews with Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and others, and has gained popularity from those. They are widely consumed. This was an interview she did not too long ago where she outlined and made some pretty big statements about some of the things that she believes. Take a listen.
So more than a health epidemic, which is what we have in this country, I mean, health is getting destroyed in the United States, which you don't really talk about because it's not profitable to heal in this country. It's profitable to keep people sick and then drug them, cut them, and bill them, which is what we learn how to do. And really what we have here is a disconnection crisis. And the healthcare crisis is one branch of that tree. We're disconnecting the body into 100 separate parts and not seeing as a unified system. And we're disconnecting the body from the environmental conversation, which actually we're really one and the same. You know, we are totally connected to nature, and in destroying nature through the pesticides and the way we're treating animals, our health is a reflection of what we're doing to the earth.
That was in an interview with Bill Maher. Some will say that this potential appointment is controversial. Trump's previous pick for the role, Dr. Jeanette Nishawat, was scheduled to face a Senate confirmation hearing later this week, but Trump said she is going to work with Kennedy at HHS in a different role. The Surgeon General is known as the nation's doctor and is tasked with providing health advice as well as overseeing the United States Public Health Service, which has 6,000 uniformed public health officials. Interesting move yesterday. A lot of alignment happening with all of the appointments that Donald Trump is making. And when I say alignment, I'm not saying that everybody agrees, but I'm saying the alignment is happening as it pertains to the people that he has put in positions of power. So he makes Bobby Kennedy the HHS secretary. This is a person that Bobby Kennedy thinks a lot about, thinks a lot of. The Make America Healthy Again movement has gained a lot of steam, a lot of people on board with it. And so Casey Means being put in a position to be made the next Surgeon General. We'll see how that goes moving forward. Lars Larson joins us coming up next. He is the host of the Lars Larson Show, which can be heard nightly here on SuperTalk Mississippi. We've got more of Mornings with Richard Cross with you coming up right after this. This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Talked about it yesterday. A release from the Department of Justice Office of Public Affairs. The headline was Largest Fentanyl Bust in DEA History. Authorities seize over 400 kilograms of fentanyl in record-shattering operation. We are a nation of acronyms, especially within the law enforcement community. Acronyms like DEA, ATF, FBI, DOJ, DHS, NSA, and others. Lars Larson joins us now. Lars, there are a lot of things that stood out to me from the announcement of this mega drug bust. But maybe at the top of the list, and I don't think anybody's talking about this, is the cooperation between all of those three-letter agencies working together, because it feels like within the law enforcement community, traditionally, there have been a lot of turf wars. Feels like we're seeing less of that in this round of the Trump administration. A lot of consolidation, a lot of multi-agency task force, and everybody kind of marching to the beat of the same drummer.
I think it's a great idea. And the fact is, the problem of siloing. Look, we're coming up on the anniversary of 9/11 in a few months. And there was a problem with siloing there. They would have siloed information and then siloed information in another agency, and the two agencies didn't talk to each other. And we ended up with thousands of people dead as a result. It applies at all levels of government. If the state police aren't talking to the county police in Mississippi, that's probably not a good idea, and it's not going to work out well, and it's going to end up hurting people. So it's great to see all those agencies working together. What I find disturbing is you live in a red state. I live in a blue state. I've lived here for a long time, state of Washington. And unfortunately, all the local law enforcement have said, we're not going to cooperate with Donald Trump because our political masters, the governor, the mayors, the city councils, the legislature said, you are not to cooperate with the federal law enforcement agencies on immigration issues in particular. But that ties right into law enforcement. Because this biggest drug bust in history that was made with the ringleader, the alleged ringleader, I guess I should say, living in the capital city of the state of Oregon, about 50 miles from where I'm standing. And this guy was sitting there with $2.8 million in cash and guns and cars and everything else, big drug kingpin from the Sinaloa cartel. He didn't have any of the drugs around him, which is probably the way smart drug kingpins operate. You keep the cash and the guns and all that, but you have the product somewhere else. He was distributing it all over the western United States. And why had he chosen a state like Oregon? He could have just as easily chose Washington because, number one, Oregon legalized hard drugs 100% and then only pulled back from that a bit about a year ago. So that hard drugs, things like cocaine, methamphetamine, fentanyl, and heroin are all basically legal. The consequences you see if you're arrested is you are put into a diversion program and nothing much happens to you. So the drugs are legal effectively. Illegal aliens are legal effectively because law enforcement is told, don't tell the feds anything. And if you do, Richard, it's this bad. There have been a few cops who will pick up the phone and say, we just picked up a real bad one. And they call a buddy at ICE and say, you could come down and pick this guy up and take him out of the country. And they get fired for that, Richard. I'm not exaggerating. It's that bad. So nice to see the cooperation at many levels. Terrible that about half the states, the blue states in America, have said by law, we will not cooperate with the feds. And I think Donald Trump is going to use the hammer of federal funding to say, if you don't want to cooperate, you don't get the money.
And it's interesting how different stories are kind of interconnected. You have the George Soros story with his open secret society and all of the money that's been funneled to those organizations to make sure that district attorneys and judges are liberal. And they've had a lot of success with that. It was a long-term play. Though we have since found out that a lot of the money was not actually coming out of George Soros' pocket. It was coming through USAID, which means taxpayers indirectly were funding much of this operation. And you got the story 2 days ago of University of Washington campus with Antifa there, insurrection happening there. Yesterday you get the Columbia University story where you've got pro-Palestine or anti-Israel, depending on how you want to classify them, protests that are happening again. Is the way that some of these things are being tamped out now versus a couple of years ago when we saw so much of this, is that changing? Does that go into what you're talking about with regard to funding and threatening of funding?
And let me tell you something. About 10 miles from where I'm standing, pro-Palestine, meaning pro-Hamas, protesters did over $1 million damage to a university library, and there were almost no consequences. And the university administration deliberately allowed it to happen. I mean, I'm not saying they went down and actually did the damage themselves, but when students and non-students came onto campus, took over a building, held the building for days in a siege with police, and the university told the police, hold off, don't go in and act against these young people. And they did over $1 million damage. University of Washington had a brand spanking new engineering building that had just been opened. It was so brand new that a lot of the lab equipment was still wrapped up in plastic and boxed up, hadn't even been installed. The building cost $150 million. These idiots did $1 million damage. And in the name of what? A non-existent country called Palestine that never has existed, and as near as I can tell, it never will. They really don't care if Palestine exists. They want to kill all the Jews, and it is an anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, and ultimately anti-American movement. Don't make any mistake about it. If you think, well, I'm not Jewish, I'm Christian, but I'm not Jewish, I don't care about this, you should care about it, because the same folks that these kids are supporting in the Hamas, in Hezbollah, and the Houthis, they are just as anti-American and anti-Christian as they are anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. So don't make the mistake of thinking I don't have a dog in the fight.
You know, Fox News, not propping them up at all, but I did a Google search on Columbia protest, and I found a dozen news stories, and 11 of the 12 news stories referred to the air quotes protesters as pro-Palestine. Fox News was the only one that called them anti-Israel protesters. I don't know if that means anything, but it feels intentional.
It does. It does, because what we call things actually makes a difference in the debate. If I can go back to that Sinaloa drug cartel guy for a moment, the paper in the capital city of Oregon that covered the story of a twice deported illegal alien, Mexican national, alleged drug kingpin for the Sinaloa cartel, doing at least tens of millions of dollars of damage and bringing in tens of millions of fatal doses of fentanyl to our country, described that guy, this twice deported illegal alien, drug dealer, alleged, as a Salem man 6 times in the story. You know the words that never appeared? Deport. They managed to describe his legal removal from the United States, and they went the long way around so they could say he has twice been legally ordered to be removed from the United States. Never want to use the D word, deport. Never use the word illegal. Never use the word alien. And called him a Salem man, the same way the media was calling Kilmar Abrego Garcia a Maryland man. A loving and devoted father, blah, blah, blah. You know, it does
a
matter
lover of
what
clam
you
chowder.
call things. Yeah, exactly. And all you're doing is you're instructing people, this is a good guy. Well, what kind of good guy? Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the guy who beats his wife, the guy who takes 8 illegal aliens or 7 illegal aliens in a minivan and traffics them into the United States to earn cash, that kind of guy, that kind of Maryland man. And this has become a regular thing with the media. And it really, look, I was a reporter for 20 years. I hate the idea that reporters are deliberately using the language and the way they say words to be able to communicate a message. A drug kingpin is a good man.
I mean, all you can do is shake your head. I mean, I laughed a second ago when you were describing that, but not because it's funny, but it's simply where we are. We've only got a minute.
What are you going to do? I mean, if you had a family in Mississippi who has a non-working, deadbeat drunk in the family, but they chose to call him, well, Uncle Joe has some problems, and he has not found a good way to occupy his time lately. You mean he's a deadbeat drunk who doesn't work and doesn't pay his bills? Oh, no, but we never call it that. We say that he has some issues and that he hasn't yet found the right occupation for his talents. Oh, well, that's a great way to describe a deadbeat drunk, if you want to call it that way. When people engage in that kind of dishonesty on a personal level, you might shake your head. I laugh, shake your head, and I don't want to have anything to do with people who want to paper a problem over that way. By the way, can I say congratulations that the thing you've been talking about it, I know, but the Mississippi Miracle with Education, I've been talking about that for the last couple of years. Tate Reeves has been on the show a couple of times, and it is truly a miracle. And finally, a bunch of the rest of the mainstream media is recognizing it.
I got one more question for you on the other side of this break. It's
Sure.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk
Right.
Mississippi with Lars Larson.
From the Venable Glass.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Lars Larson is my guest, host of the Lars Larson Show, which you can hear right here on Super Talk Mississippi, starting at 6 o'clock on weekday nights. Lars, you referenced the Mississippi Miracle, and even within the state of Mississippi, there has at times been pushback, and people say, they've had fun with numbers on the way these test scores are calculated and the way they're tabulated. Even if you concede that point and you say, okay, maybe that's true, it's still being compared in a fun with numbers way, if you believe that, with the rest of the country. And progress has been made, significant progress has been made in a state that has a reputation traditionally for being at the bottom near every educational ranking.
Well, and think about it, Richard. Just a small number of years ago, Mississippi was at the bottom of things like NAEP, the National Assessment of Education Progress. It is now near the top or at the top compared to the rest of the country. And you've done it without the usual prescription, which is the prescription we hear from the most powerful union in America, the teachers union. You have to give us more money. We're doing a bad job, and we'll do a better job if you pay us more money. And then more money is ladled on. State of Washington has actually doubled education spending, state I live in the last 10 years, doubled it. And you know what's happened to test scores? They still keep going down. So how do you explain that it's not the money you have, it's how you use it? And Mississippi has figured out the formula. So like you said, if Mississippi isn't number one, but is number 5, but it went from the bottom to number 5, and if you don't believe that they went to number 1, it's good result.
You know what? There's one more thing that's not being talked about in this, and that is Mississippi school children went back to school faster than almost anywhere else in the country post-COVID. Now, yes, you had mask mandates in place. Yes, there were protections and all of those things. But this whole idea of sitting out of school for a year and a half did not happen in Mississippi.
No, it didn't. And think about, I'm going to say it. I know teachers don't like when I do, but think how greedy it is that your union says we want to be paid. Tell us that we don't have to go back to work and we still get the check. An awful lot of Americans were out of their jobs and they didn't get checks. Some got unemployment, a few got stimulus checks, but how many people got paid their full wage to not do their job? And the end result for kids, I kept saying in the first couple of years afterwards, Richard, I said, okay, if you've let the kids fall behind, let's have the teachers work all summer with all the kids, not just a few kids at summer school, and get them caught up. And the union said, only if you pay us more money. I got to tell you something. All the tradesmen I do business with, if somebody says, I didn't finish that job, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish it, and I don't care how many hours it takes me to finish that job, I promised you I'd do a job for an amount of money that you agreed to. You paid the money. I didn't finish the job. It's on me to finish the job. How is it that we exempt one particular category from people of saying we want to be paid more to go back and finish the job we didn't do?
Yeah. Though I will defend teachers in our home state of Mississippi who are working hard. They've gotten a little bit of a bump. They're still near the bottom of the pay scale nationally, but I think there's a lot of good happening with teachers in the state of Mississippi. Last thing I want to ask you about this morning, Lars, we've got this announcement coming from the White House, 9 o'clock Central Time, 10 o'clock on the East Coast today. It is supposed to be a big trade announcement. It is reported that this is going to be a trade alliance with the United Kingdom. Is this a significant first step in terms of these announcements and getting aligned or more aligned on trade with partners globally?
I think it is, because look what's going to happen. We get this big trade deal, and a bunch of countries came to the United States days after Trump announced the tariffs. And right now, everything we're hearing coming out of communist China is that country is in trouble. It's on the ropes. And they're suffering from it badly. Most Americans are just anticipating what it might do to them. It's happening in China right now. And China needs America more than America needs China. We can buy cheap stuff from a lot of other places on the globe other than China. So you get this trade alliance forming. It's not only a good deal with our trade with Great Britain, but it's also a great deal because it sends a message to China. Do you want to be on the train or get run over by it?
What's coming up tonight on the Lars Larson Show?
No, I've just started putting it together. It's early on the left coast, but we will have the best guests. We've got lots of, and I love getting calls from Mississippi. I even get some great naysayers from Mississippi, so it's fun.
I love it. We always enjoy listening, Lars. Thanks so much for your time this morning. We'll talk again soon.
My pleasure, Richard. Thank you.
Lars Larson, host of the Lars Larson Show. You can hear it right here on SuperTalk Mississippi starting at 6 o'clock on weekday nights. Mother's Day is this weekend, and Carter Jewelers in Jackson has their annual balloon pop sale offering 70% off and more. Carter Jewelers, located in downtown Jackson since 1849 on the corner of State and High Streets and at the Pemberton Plaza in Vicksburg. Don't forget, Mother's Day coming up this Sunday. Also, this afternoon, today on In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar, you'll hear an interview with singer-songwriter Marina Rocks. In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar is presented by Superior Catfish. There's catfish, and then there is Superior Catfish, U.S. farm-raised catfish with homegrown flavor. Ask for it by name at your favorite store or restaurant, and go to superiorcatfish.com for more information. 8 o'clock hour coming up. The news is next. This is MRC on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the SuperTalk app.
Forget about me.
Once again, good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi as we roll into the 8 o'clock hour. Most of you up and stirring, have your day underway, whether it's taking kids to school, getting to the office, or, I don't know, maybe you're retired and you're just up and stirring and making sure the garden is exactly how it's supposed to be. Regardless of how you're listening, where you're listening, or why you're listening, we appreciate you joining the conversation. We invite you to do so as well on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Agree, disagree, or just have a thought? Feel free to share it. The best teams know how to get even better. That's why C Spire constantly enhances their wireless, fiber internet, and business solutions for you. Visit cspire.com today. C Spire, inspired by you. If you have never attended a Special Olympics event, you are missing out. It is one of the purest things that you will ever see in terms of athletic competition and skills. And the Mississippi Special Olympics Games are happening right here in the state this weekend at Keesler Air Force Base. Monica Daniels is president and CEO of Special Olympics Mississippi. She joins us this morning. Monica, good morning to you. Big weekend coming up for Special Olympics Mississippi.
Good morning, Richard, and thank you so much for having us. Yes, very big weekend, and anyone who knows any secret sauce formulas to keep the rain off the coast, we would appreciate it. But rest assured, we have worked many months and have an in-place contingency plan, so no athlete will be denied their opportunity to compete whatsoever, but we would prefer some sunshine.
I certainly understand that, and hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate this weekend. It's a pretty massive undertaking. You've got lots of participants. There are lots of events that are happening, different sports that are happening. And you heard me say a second ago, if you've never seen a Special Olympics event or series of events, games happen, you're missing out, because seeing some of the challenges and obstacles that some of the participants have overcome to be in this position is it's heartwarming, it's incredible, it's inspiring. I guess I could probably come up with lots of other ways to describe it, but it is just exceptional.
It is. And honestly, there may not be enough words in the thesaurus to describe it. You have to just see it and immerse yourself in it. And, we're going to have 900 athletes this year. So we're coming back to pre-COVID numbers, which is so encouraging. We're going to have over 1,500 volunteers. So there are Olympic Village, which is sponsored by Ingalls Shipbuilding, and Keesler Air Force Base for hosting us, and all of our community partners are going to be there. Free health screenings in multiple disciplines. So on and off the competition field, there are things happening to positively impact the lives of those who participate in Special Olympics. And this year is a qualifying year. So once again, we are approaching the national stage every 4 years, just like the traditional Olympic model. Special Olympics hosts USA Games. And all of the events occurring at Summer Games and that have been occurring so far this year at our state level competitions at other places in the state, athletes are trying to qualify for that national stage, which will be at the University of Minnesota, Minneapolis in June of 2026. Lots at stake this weekend.
Give us a sample of some of the events that people will see or hear about this weekend that's happening at the Mississippi Special Olympics Games.
So in the true spirit of Olympic Games and competition and camaraderie and sports and respect, our law enforcement officers started on Monday, the very northeast corner of Mississippi, and they have been running, and our athletes have been joining them on the highways and side roads and through outdoor malls with a lit torch. That started on Monday, and on Friday that torch will enter Keesler Air Force Base, accompanied by many more police officers, athletes, and active military at Keesler, and they will light the cauldron and the games will begin. We have a parade of athletes. We have 19 areas across the state, all local programs. They make banners just like flags. They parade in. They are welcomed. The torch is lit. Saturday morning, games begin, and we have bocce, swimming, all track and field, volleyball, tennis skills, so many sports going on, starting at 9 a.m.
I hate to even bring this up, but it was very much newsworthy yesterday. There was an unconfirmed report at Keesler Air Force Base, and it went on lockdown. We got news from Keesler through their spokesperson yesterday that there was no sign of anything to be concerned about. In terms of security and safety, obviously that is important for you and for all of the participants and the volunteers that are there. What have you heard from Keesler?
Keesler, I've been in direct communication with them since 7 a.m. yesterday.
Okay.
And we were told ahead of time that there was going to be a drill. Obviously, this was not that, and I don't know the ins and outs of that. But what I can say is, and honestly, I had 3 of my staff members who were already there preparing. We staggered down this whole week, so. For someone who was very concerned, the communication was clear and constant and up to date and to the minute. And I was notified the minute the gates were reopened, and everything has been given the green light. And we've been meeting for months since January with all the various groups, and security forces has met with us every 2 weeks for the last 3 months. So we were not left out of this loop at all, and have been reassured that everything will be fine for our athletes, families, volunteers.
Outstanding. Monica Daniels, President and CEO of Special Olympics Mississippi. I've had some interaction with Special Olympics through the years, whether it was events at Ole Miss or a few years ago there was a unified softball game that happened in Pearl at what was then the Mississippi Braves Stadium. And the word, I know we were kind of playing around with words a second ago. I said adjectives, and you said the thesaurus not big enough. But inspired, I think, is the emotion that I left with being around those young people and young adults who have had to face challenges in their life that most of us don't have to face, and yet this infectious spirit that exists among universally those athletes, and determination and a willingness to just keep fighting. It does something to you on the inside when you see these young people and young adults who have been disadvantaged in their life by no choosing of their own, and yet they are excelling.
Yes, they are. And I'm going on 9 years now, 30 years in nonprofit world, 9 years dedicated to this particular movement. And one of the things that drew me to the work of Special Olympics and to this movement is never underestimate our athletes. Never underestimate individuals that are differently abled or have intellectual disabilities or on the autism spectrum, because you will be disappointed. You will walk away disappointed. And they will have imparted some wisdom if you were wise enough to accept it. They are fierce. They are competitive. They are genuine. They stand up in the face of injustice and unfairness with dignity, and they leave it all on the playing field. Win or lose, they shake hands. No one has to tell them to do that. No one has to say, go be a good sport, shake their hand. We could all learn a lot. And, you know, at the beginning of to kick off our games, we recite the athlete oath, which is, let me win. But if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. And every 900 of them this weekend will embody that oath.
That chill bumps as you were saying that. You know, one of the things that I laughed about, but not, I mean, it was just recognition. There's sometimes a little cockiness and a little swagger, and certainly a lot of confidence. I mean, these are athletes that are competing like crazy.
Oh, yes, absolutely. There is no lack of confidence. And, but that, you know, that's not always the case. And when we were getting ready in 2022, a tiny little story in the few minutes we have left, we were bringing our first unified cheer team with regular ed and exceptional ed students from the Mississippi Delta, comprised of the Boys and Girls Clubs and Special Olympics Mississippi.
Monica, let me interrupt you if I may. I want to hear this story, but we're almost up against a break. If you'll hang through the break, I want you to finish this story before we wrap up the conversation. Visiting with Monica Daniels, President and CEO, Special Olympics Mississippi. We got more coming up with you. We're back right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Couple more minutes with Monica Daniels, President and CEO of Special Olympics Mississippi, as we get set for the start of the Special Olympics Games, Mississippi Special Olympics Games that are happening at Keesler Air Force Base on the coast this weekend. Monica, you were telling a story. I think I set you up for it by talking about the confidence that we see in Special Olympics athletes, and you said yes, but that's not always the case.
Right. Doesn't always start out that way. And, you know, I could be on here all day and talk to you about Special Olympics, but, you know, I have to be in Keesler by 3. But you know, I was talking about the culmination of a partnership that Mississippi actually launched nationally, and we helped co-write the memorandum of agreement between Special Olympics and Boys and Girls Clubs. And it all started with this Special Olympics Mississippi program and my dear friend David Dallas, who is the CEO of Special Olympics of the Mississippi Delta. We were the only state in the nation that took unified Boys and Girls Clubs teams to USA Games 2022 in Florida. One of those teams was a unified cheer team from the Mississippi Delta. And one of those athletes, Keesler, in addition to hosting summer games, had his back and hosted a training camp. And airmen, young, brand spanking new, wet behind the ears airmen, volunteer every year to be with our athletes all day during their events. And this particular airman was with this cheerleader who was completely nonverbal. She was terrified. She, beautiful smile, just didn't talk. And she started talking because of him. And he looked at the cheer coach, who was so confused and burst into tears. And he had only been on base a couple of weeks. And he said, "My sister's special needs.
Wow.
I know what to do." She started talking, a few words. She would not take off her gold medal. Her dad had to wash her USA Games qualifying shirt every day. And by the time we made it to USA Games, she was talking. So sometimes they don't come super confident, but they leave that way, knowing that their voice is in there. And those airmen help them find it sometimes.
Was she nonverbal at home as well, or only in the team setting?
Mostly in the team setting.
Okay.
But her family said that she came back to them much more chatty than she left.
Oh, wow. Just confidence because of somebody caring enough and having the life experience to say, "Hey, you got this." That's
right.
What a cool story.
And that's the kind of impact on and off the playing field that all the volunteers at Keesler help make happen for us. And we host 8 games across the state year round. We're everywhere. I heard you say Ole Miss. They host our spring games, which is all basketball all the time, every year. Camp Shelby, Camp McCain, we're doing this every time we turn around. We're packing up and pitching tents at a new location for our athletes.
2 things as we wrap up. If someone would like to get involved as a volunteer, obviously it's too late for this weekend at Keesler, but if they want to get involved locally or at the statewide level, what's the best way to do that?
The easiest way to do that is to visit our website, SpecialOlympicsMississippi.org. You will see across the top banner, find a program, get involved. It'll say become an athlete, become a coach, become a volunteer. And then it will show you, like I said earlier, we're 19 local programs. Those are all led by volunteers. The map is up there. It shows you what counties, where you live, and it has the volunteer director's email and phone number on there. Fill out the form. Give them a call. We will plug you in.
Beautiful. Love that. And then finally is, are the state games, Special Olympics Mississippi games, open to the public?
They are. Fantastic. Everyone can come in through the pass road in Biloxi. And actually, it's not too late to volunteer. We have volunteer T-shirts and sign-up sheets for the morning of. So if you wake up Saturday morning and your coffee has you feeling generous and invigorated, come on out and volunteer.
Beautiful. So you can still volunteer if you would like to. The Mississippi Special Olympics Games happening at Keesler Air Force Base starting this Saturday morning. Can assure you, if nothing else, you will leave inspired. And what a gift that is. Monica, thank you so much for your time this morning. Wish you nothing but success and hope the rain holds off. And if not, we'll all just get wet.
That's right. We'll get wet. Thank you so much.
You as well. Monica Daniels, President, CEO of Special Olympics Mississippi, joining us this morning. What a great event. If I say this as genuinely as I possibly can, if you have never been involved, whether as an observer or a volunteer or a participant even in a unified game setting, do yourself the favor of just one time volunteering to help with a Special Olympics event, close to you, far away, however you want to do it. I promise you the reward that you get will be greater than the reward they receive for you volunteering your time. That's all it takes. You don't have to have any certain skills, just your time and a willingness to go. So great stuff. I appreciate Monica joining us. Want to congratulate New Yorkers. Those of you that call the Big Apple home, don't know, maybe we've got somebody listening online in New York this morning. Congratulations. you are going to have the opportunity to foot the bill for the legal troubles for the Attorney General of the state of New York, Letitia James. How did that happen? Little backroom dealing, little fly-by-night treatment. Taxpayers could be on the hook for New York Attorney General Letitia James' legal bills during Justice Department probes into her alleged fraudulent real estate dealings. If I remember correct, weren't fraudulent real estate dealings the thing that her office accused Donald Trump of? If I remember correctly?
Diabolical.
Albany Democrats are expected to sign off on a provision allowing certain officials to tap into a $10 million fund to cover any reasonable attorney's fees and expenses incurred, even as part of probes not directly related to their state employment. Wait, what? Not being sued in your capacity as a state employee, but if you're sued individually. The language is being slipped into New York's operations budget bill, one of several expected to be made public and voted on starting this week as the legislature moves to pass next year's fiscal plan in New York State. Multiple sources told the New York Post that the specific language in the bill would apply to James's looming legal fight. New York Republican State Committee Chairman Ed Cox lashed out over the move to slip a legal bailout to James, calling it, quote, an outrageous abuse of power and a slap in the face to every New Yorker, close quote. He went on to say, this is what corruption looks like in plain sight. Political insiders rigging the system to protect their own while hardworking families get shortchanged. Tish James used her office to wage partisan lawfare against her political opponents, and now New Yorkers are footing the bill for the consequences. Wow. The bill language shared with the Post doesn't mention James by name, but it does indicate state employees could be covered if the, quote, legally compulsive process was initiated by the feds after January 1st, 2025. How about that? Bill would cover those who obtained representation by private counsel in response to any request, summons, command, subpoena, warrant, investigative interview, or document request, audit, or legally compulsive process started by the feds after that date as a result of their state employment or duties. It was Letitia James, or Tish as they call her, who infamously declared that no one is above the law when prosecuting Trump over his business dealings. She was hit with a DOJ criminal referral for instances of alleged mortgage fraud last month. She claimed that her home in Virginia was her principal residence, which is a problem if you're serving as the Attorney General for the state of New York.
Wow. Just wow.
The Attorney General's office confirmed that James plans to rely on both state funds and a private legal defense fund to fight the battle.
And my question to you is, do you think that if you mess up in government and you're an elected official or appointed, that you should be able to use taxpayer dollars to defend yourself? Not, I mean, 1 penny or 100 million of them. What is your opinion on that? I have one. I think you can tell by my tone what I think, but
I don't think that SuperTalk has a private legal defense fund to help me if necessary.
Yeah.
I don't think.
The perks of government work.
Probably need to check into that with HR. Just to be on the safe side.
Let's double check on that one, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good to be with you this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Something that we've been telling you about for a while. We got numbers to prove that this is a real thing. We're back.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
When I say we've been telling you about this for a while, this is not an I told you so. This is a confirmation story from the Wall Street Journal. If you've been listening to the program for a while, you know that we regularly spend time with Dr. Courtney Taylor. Her job is workforce development, making sure that opportunities exist for Mississippi workers, making sure that we have a trained workforce that is ready to take advantage of the opportunities that are growing, especially in the trades, on an almost daily basis in Mississippi. What are you talking about, Richard? We're talking about CTE. Career technical education. What was once upon a time referred to as shop class or home ec in high schools across the state of Mississippi. It's got a fancier name now, but the premise is the same, and it's start teaching skills to students when they are in high school so that they are ready for the workforce, whether they are going to college or not. In Philadelphia, the emphasis on career technical education is paying off in a big way for some students. Elijah Rojas won't graduate from high school until next year. He is a junior in high school right now, but he already has a job offer, one that pays $68,000 a year. 17-year-old Rios is a junior taking welding classes at Father Judge, a Catholic high school in Philadelphia that works closely with companies looking for workers in the skilled trades. Employers, as we have talked about, are dealing with a shortage of skilled workers as baby boomers retire, and they have increasingly begun courting high school students like Rios. A hiring strategy, they say, is likely to become even more crucial in the coming years. Welding, electricians, plumbers, and other skilled trade sectors are going into high schools and recruiting these students like they are Division I athletes. In fact, there is a quote in here in this story from Rios. Elijah Rios, who we were talking about. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming. Like, this company wants you. That company wants you. It honestly feels like I'm an athlete getting all this attention from all these pro teams. Or maybe college teams would be the better example. Why? Because he's got the technical skills to run high-tech equipment. As skilled trades become more tech-infused, they anticipate doing even more recruitment at an early age because they need workers who are comfortable programming and running computer diagnostics. Bob Walker is the founder of Global Affinity, a Pennsylvania-based manufacturer. He says, I'm not looking to hire the guy that I used to 20 years ago. When you have a $1.7 million steel laser cutter that has to be used, you've got to have tech-savvy workers to do it.
And you got to have tech-savvy workers to fix it and maintain it. And there's a whole line of jobs, and we are fortunate to have such a wonderful sponsor of the Handyman Show in Build, Mississippi. And we cover this so regular. It's amazing the amount of money you're making nowadays for skilled labor, welding, HVAC repair, on, carpentry, cabinet work. I mean, it's amazing. And these young men and women are coming out high school with an opportunity to, pay for themselves. And they don't have to wait 4 years. They just get in there and get those certificates, get taught, and kudos to Mr. Rios. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
There's a great need out there, and we need folks like that to be excited about their future.
Look, that $68,000, $70,000 starting that is a starting salary. That's not a cap.
No, you're going to make as much as you want in those businesses.
Yeah.
The better you get.
One of the things, and you've heard me ask Courtney Taylor and others about this when we've talked, it doesn't necessarily have to be an either or, right? You have young people that, whether it's because it's what they want to do, or they're pressured to do it, or they just feel like they're supposed to go to college, have a tough time wrapping their idea around, yeah, but do I want to be a welder? Do I want to be a plumber? Do I want to be an electrician? I've said this to you before, Lance, and I've said this to others as well. I would love it if my son said, hey, I want to work outside. I can't figure out what it is that I want to do. And I might say, well, bud, what if we go to college and get a business degree, and then you acquire a skill either before or after, like one of these that we're talking about, as an electrician, as a plumber, as a welder, and then you work for a while to make sure that you know what you're doing, but you apply the business skills that you've learned in college with the trade skills that you have, and now you have the ability not just to work for somebody else in one of these trades, but to start your own company and grow your own company and scale your own company. One of the really cool stories that we've seen out there is, you can debate the good and the bad of private equity. That's big money coming in from the outside and buying companies, buying businesses, buying property, whatever it is. But private equity at its core is investment dollars into something.
They expect to make money on, yeah.
And that they want to make money on. And so private equity groups are coming in and they are buying out HVAC companies, electrical supply companies, electrical maintenance companies, plumbing companies. And this is just regular old Joes that have been working hard their entire lives. They've built up a good business. In some cases, maybe they've built up a business with multiple locations. And instead of just continuing to work and, pass the business on to a future generation or try to sell it through some business broker, they are being offered multiples of their revenue from private equity companies. And most of the time, if they want to continue to work, they can for the company in a leadership role.
And you see these companies expanding.
You just take that big old check and head to the beach.
Well, and you see these companies as well expanding into other areas like HVAC repair, if they're not necessarily, or electrical or plumbing. If they may have been doing something else and they've mastered that skill set, and they go, hey, maybe we could add this service as well to our business.
That's it. You become a services company as opposed to a service company.
That's right. You're seeing that around here in Jackson. So it's coming, folks. It's coming. And we need workers to fill those jobs. And that's what we've covered, and Courtney does a great job. Build Mississippi. So many people are advocates. We just need to listen because it's serious. There's real money, real career opportunities, and real smiles and stuff you get to buy with that. Seeing one of these welding trucks, Richard, that a 23-year-old guy is driving around, and every time I see one, I go talk to these guys, and they love their job. They've got a $120,000 rig paid for. They can go anywhere.
Look at this. Hog in Oxford on the C Spire text line. All right, this is a real-life example. This is not Elijah Rios in a Wall Street Journal article in Philadelphia. This is Hog in Oxford. My son attended a welding school for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at 19 years old, he is making $38 an hour plus $125 a day traveling as a welder.
Hey, man,
trade schools are making a comeback. By the way, $38 an hour at a standard number of hours for a year of 2,000 work hours, $76,000 a year at 19 years old.
And the $125 a day traveling stipend, so don't forget about that. And that's what I'm saying with these trucks. You can go anywhere. You can go out off the back 40. You may have to. I talked to a guy over in Vicksburg. He services barges. He goes all over. These guys are absolutely loving their job. And again, I'm glad we covered this today because we do this on Saturday, and I just want to continue to harp as great a job as Build Mississippi and entities like that are doing to get the right people in the right place with the right credentials.
Love telling success stories.
Yeah, man, especially young folks out there that, who come out with $100,000 in debt and this, that. You're coming out with cash in your pocket here.
And if you still want to go to college, you can still do that. You can go get a degree.
You can do it online.
Absolutely, you can. Love sharing those success stories. Mornings with Richard Cross. SuperTalk, Mississippi. C-Spire text line open to you, 601-879-4395. The best teams know how to get even better. That's why C-Spire constantly enhances their wireless, fiber, internet, and business solutions for you. Visit cspire.com today. C-Spire, inspired by you. We're back right after this.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Yesterday on Special Report with Brett Baer, Bernie Sanders was on set for an interview, and Baer asked Sanders about, he didn't use the word hypocrisy, but he was hinting around as to whether or not there is hypocrisy in fighting the oligarchs while flying on private jets.
Alyssa Slotkin, senator from Michigan, she said you shouldn't be using oligarch. It's over people's head. You've gotten criticized from other people. Free Beacon says Bernie Sanders spent $221,000 on private jets fighting the oligarchy tour, paid for by friends of Bernie Sanders. That you've spent millions of dollars in campaign funds on private jet travel over the years. How do you push back on both of those things?
When's the last time you saw Donald Trump during a campaign mode at National Airport?
No. It doesn't. But he's also not fighting the oligarchy.
No. You run a campaign and you do 3 or 4 or 5 rallies in a week. The only way you can get around to talk to 30,000 people. Think I'm going to be sitting on a waiting line at United, waiting, 30,000 people are waiting? That's the only way you can get around. No apologies for that. That's what campaign travel is about. We've done it in the past. We're going to do it in the future.
And you think that this is hitting a mark? You think it's scratching the itch that voters want to hear from?
I think at a time when the people on top are doing phenomenally well, when seniors, working class people are struggling, people want to hear action to stand up to the people who have the wealth and the power and create an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top.
Avowed socialist Bernie Sanders got to level the playing field. But. Goose and gander, good for thee, not for me, all of those things. No apologies, he says. Now, look. Is he right in his assessment that, hey, you want to hit 3 rallies a day in 3 different parts of the country with big crowds there, the only way you can get there is with a private jet? Yeah, he's right about that. It's really the only way to make it work, unless geographically you just lay it out in a way where you're kind of hitting the same state and you can jump on a bus and go from spot to spot. But that's not what makes the headline. The headline is, you want to see me stand in line at a United counter? No apologies. That's the headline. It doesn't really matter if Bernie, because that's the thing, right? When everything you say is about, it's the rich's fault, the rich fault, the rich fault, the rich fault, and then people see you climbing onto and stepping off of a private jet over and over and over, sometimes they have a hard time making 1 + 1 = 2. even if there is a legitimate reason for it.
Well, he wants your one to be the people who he represents as one, that dollar. You know, he wants to take that dollar and give it to somebody else. Let's be realistic here. What does it mean by level the playing field? That means taking somebody else's hard-earned money and giving it to folks that didn't earn anything.
You work your rear end off to build something special, and you grow it to a point that you're making exceptional money, in some cases generational wealth. These politicians that talk about redistribution of wealth and promote socialism, they don't talk about the climb to get from the bottom to where you are today. They don't care about your money when you don't have any. When you don't have any, they think people that have already made it should give it to you, as opposed to encouraging you to continue to fight, continue to climb, continue to claw, so that you too can climb to a level that is uncommon.
Hey, man, well, think about it this way. When you penalize people for success, what do you think is going to happen to those that were successful? What kind of inspiration are you creating there? Oh, well, if you work hard, we're just going to take more of your money. So why would people work harder? Why wouldn't eventually in 50 years or 30 years they say, yeah, I'll just take whatever I can get here? That's the easy way, because I know the government is going to come take what I worked for. Mm-hmm. Where are you going to get innovation?
Yeah, how about the idea
they took risks to get there.
I don't have enough money to do the things I want to do or I need to do. What do? Look for a handout or go get another job or a third job? And I'm not saying that's always the sexiest thing, but sometimes it's what you got to do.
Nobody wants to do that, but you have to do things you have to do to pay the bills and those kinds of things, you know?
Well, there's a funny story. Jane was in the store working one day, and there's a customer that knew who I was because they heard me on the radio, and they're like, does Richard actually have a full-time job? And Jane kind of was like, he's got like 6. She was like, oh, okay. Yeah. You do what you got to do. If you're driven to be successful,
there's your key.
Then you do what you've got to do to take care of your family, to give yourself a chance to get to a spot where, what does Dave Ramsey say? Live like no one else so you can live like no one else? I don't know about that, but principles on the mark. Once again, a day where we had more than we were able to get to. That big economic trade announcement coming up from Donald Trump in just a matter of minutes from the White House. Thanks so much for being with us. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. For Lance, I'm Richard. Have a great Thursday.
Are you ready? Mid-Delta Auction Company will be bringing you a massive 3-day absolute public auction, May 29th, 30th, and 31st. It all kicks off Thursday at Maloof Furniture, then Friday and Saturday at the Old Baldwin Warehouse in Greenwoods Industrial Park.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.